Hey everybody, it's Jay here, and today I'm going to talk about binding. I have a binding video already up on my channel, but it's really shit because it's really old. All of my older videos are kind of shit. All the ones that were done like 8 months to a year ago, they're kind of bad. All the early videos on my channel, they're really bad because I had no idea what I was doing. But anyway, I'm going to talk about binding because binding is such a big thing for so many trans men and trans masculine people, and I just want everybody to do it safely. Like, I've given binding presentations more than once in the LGBT youth group that I'm part of. I constantly spout safe binding information on the Trans Teen Survival Guide, and I just want to make sure that everybody hears this stuff and that there's a video that people can link to talk about binding. So first of all, binding, if you didn't already know, is making your chest flat using some kind of compression garment. This is the binder that I'm wearing right now. This is like a GC2B half-length white yoke. It's very good. I really like these binders. This is the first pullover binder that I've ever had that has worked well for me. But different people prefer different brands and there are different styles of binder. So this is another one. This is the GC2B black version of the one I'm already wearing, the mid-length. Hello. This is the black mid-length GC2B binder, and that's what we call a pullover binder because you pull it over your head. There is no other way to get it on. Some people step into pullover binders. I wouldn't do that because it can get stuck on your hips, because most people's hips are wider than their shoulders, especially when it comes to trans people, so you can get that problem. So I wouldn't recommend it, but it's an option. This yoke is a Velcro binder, so you put it on over your head. I'll actually demonstrate over my shirt. This binder, there's an armhole, there's a head hole, and then it looks really wonky on my shirt. And then there's a Velcro bit here, and a Velcro bit on the side here, and they link up. And that's a binder. I used those for a solid year and a half, and they're not bad, but they're not as effective as these ones. But some people prefer them. For me, they're personally not as effective, but there are loads of different styles of binders. There's also pullover binders. There's pullover binders, as I showed you, Velcro binders. There's also zip and clasp binders, and those are also available, but it can be hard to find non-pullover binders. Pullover binders are the most common ones and the easiest ones to find. Velcro ones are the next most readily available, but the rest of them are less common. Underworks do pullover binders and a zip binder for swimming, but I've seen people use it for normal everyday binding and they have no problems with it. GC2B do pullover. The Les Love Boats shop does Velcro and pullover and zip and clasp, but you gotta be careful with sizing from there because it's an Asian site and Asian sizes are so small. And for example, to be fair though, this is kind of a double standard because this is an extra large. The GC2B that I wear is a 2XL. I'm very sensitive to binders. Just gonna put that out there. I'm not so certain about other places to get zip and clasp, but I will link to a binding post that I have on Tumblr. The next thing I'm going to talk about is these. This is an ace bandage. People use these to bind sometimes, and you shouldn't. Any kind of wrap or bandage or tape should not be used for binding for a lot of reasons. Mostly because these binders are designed to be able to have some give so that you can breathe, whereas these don't. Ace bandages are designed to decrease stop things from swelling up. Yeah, this is supposed to compress to stop things from swelling up, like wounds, and because of that, if you're breathing out, it gets tighter on you. You have uneven distribution of pressure. These binders have an even distribution of pressure throughout your chest, whereas this is uneven, so there could be a lot of pressure on one rib, and that's not good. If you don't have access to the internet to buy your own binders, if you're not able to buy stuff online, or if you wouldn't be able to get it ordered to your house, What you can do instead is you can try a DIY binder. I will warn that not all of these are as effective. They're not always as effective as normal binders, but a lot of people find them really useful as a good way to tide you over. Sports bras are often used, like wearing a sports bra backwards, so you've got the flat part over your chest. Even just like a normal sports bra on frontwards can do a lot for a small chest. Other than sports bras, some people have made DIY binders out of the camisole vests. You can also make them out of compression shorts and like the tummy tucking compression wear that you can get in shops. And some people use tights, but like unless you're really small, tights aren't going to do much for you. So again, I will link to all of the stuff that I'm talking about here, because like this stuff there's a lot of resources for this on Tumblr, and I just want to compile it all into one video. And lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about binding safely, because I personally have made mistakes in terms of binding safely. I know other people have as well. First of all, you have to ease yourself into binding, especially if you've never binded before. Start with a maximum of 2 hours and work yourself up by maybe an hour or 2 hours every day until you reach at most 8 hours. Don't bind for more than 6 hours for maximum safety, so you're least likely to hurt yourself if you bind for 6 hours. 8 hours is the general safety guideline, the realistic safety guideline. But for a lot of people, 8 hours is impossible because they've got school, they've got work, they've got shit to do, and they need their binder on. And 12 hours if you really can't help it. I can personally go up to 12 hours, but after 12 hours I do feel like achy, not necessarily pain, but achy. And for that reason I would avoid personally like going above 12 hours, but I generally try and take mine off as soon as I can. I'm only wearing a binder in this video because I don't like to do videos without a binder on. Obviously know your own limits, because some people's limits are not the same as like the recommended guidelines, you know. Some people can't take as much, some people can take much more, but just be very careful. Don't use ace bandages or tape, as I've already said. Wear the right size binder and find a style that works best for you. For example, I tried wearing an Underworks binder for a while. It was too small, it was not right for me, and I hurt myself. It was not good. Since then I used Velcro binders for a really long time. I used Velcro binders at the gym, and now I use GC2B binders in the right size. I had to go through 3 different sizes to find the right one, but this is now what works best for me, and I'm safe and I'm comfy. Take off your binder if you're feeling pain, because if you leave your binder on while you're experiencing pain, you may make a bad injury worse. Wear a vest underneath. Some people with sensory issues particularly wear a vest underneath their binder because it helps deal with like the feeling of the binder, because I will admit the outside of this one is really smooth but the inside is kind of scratchy. And if you're unsure of something about binding, ask. Like if you're like going to an event and you're not sure if it'll be safe to bind there, ask. Don't be afraid to ask me. Like my Tumblr inbox is always open and all that kind of thing. And don't bind when you exercise at all. Like real big no there. Like binding when you exercise is such a bad idea. Anything that's gonna make you like your heart rate higher and make you breathe heavier, that's not a thing to bind. That's not a good thing. Binding, some people think that binding can cause cancer. It does not. What binding can do is it can make the chest tissue softer, and therefore make the chest saggier. But that's a breaking down of the tissue. It's not actually changing anything in your body. It's just that the tissue in your chest is like just becoming softer. That's not any harm. It doesn't cause cancer. It doesn't cause Mastitis. Now, I still don't really know what mastitis is, but if this is a very specific scenario, if you've recently had a child and are breastfeeding, you should not bind because it can cause problems. That's the situation where it can cause mastitis. So don't do that if you're in that position. Binding can't cause illnesses, but it can make illnesses worse. So if you have a cold and you continue to bind, it can kind of like inhibit your body from healing fully and therefore make a cold into a flu kind of thing and just make it worse, you know? Binding shouldn't hurt. If you experience pain, move your binder for at least 12 hours. Don't bind again until your pain is gone. See your doctor if the pain keeps coming back. See your doctor if you have like a visible injury, like a bruise or like a wonky looking rib. And see a doctor if the pain persists, even if you haven't binded for 2 days. So if you feel pain and take off your binder and 2 days later you still have that pain, go to a doctor. I think that's all the annoyance I'm going to give you about binding for now. Like, I know that I'm such a dad when it comes to stopping people from binding unsafely, but it's important. If you bind unsafely, you can permanently affect your ability to get top surgery in future. You can permanently affect your ability to bind. Like, if you bind unsafely and you injure yourself in a certain way, you may never be able to bind again. So keep that in mind. And if you bind yourself in a certain way and get a certain injury, you may never be able to get top surgery. So keep that stuff in mind when you're binding, because you don't want to affect your future that way. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please click down here. If you want to subscribe to my channel or check out my other videos, down there is the button for that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.